Fanatics, welcome to another summer series podcast here in the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. Today is Jon Heacock's big day, the Iowa State defensive coordinator. Love this guy. He's one of my favorite people. Now, one of my favorite coaches, too. Elite defensive mind for Matt Campbell's staff. But Jon Heacock's one of my favorite people that I've ever gotten to work with at Iowa State. And I don't say that lightly because there have been awesome ones over the years. Just a very good man I look up to very much. And he is my guest on today's summer series. Of course, we couldn't do it without our great sponsors. Give a shout out to my friends at Fairway Meat Market. Man, that spot up in Ames is legit. If you haven't been yet, the Fairway Meat Market, it is right where the old Wallabies used to be, right in that area of West Ames. And it's my go-to spot on game day weekends, baby. I like to go there. They always have cool, different things put together. So my Friday night tailgate, because I don't really tailgate on Saturdays like you guys. I like to do the Friday night thing. And they always got something cool put together, and I can impress the neighbors with. Fairway Meat Market up in Ames. Want to thank my buddies over at Central States Roofing as well. Now, they're a commercial roofing company in Central Iowa, clone to the bone. These guys are nuts. They're absolutely nuts about the Cyclones. I love these guys, the Nelson family. They're fantastic. They do free roof condition reports and estimates. That's important. This happened with me about 5-6 years ago, where after the derecho, whatever year that was, so 4 years ago maybe, and I didn't even know I had hail damage, but I did. And these companies like Central States Roofing will come and they'll check it out, and they'll see what they got. They'll give you an estimate. Maybe you can turn it into insurance, whatever, however that worked for you. But I'd like you to remember that we're all homeowners, and eventually you're going to need in your roof. Remember my friends at Central States Roofing. They are clone to the bone, big time supporters of what we're doing here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. All right, Jon Heacock. He is the centerpiece of today's summer series as we go inside Iowa State football. Want to remind you too. So far we've done Matt Campbell, Rocco Beck, Taylor Mauser. Today it's Jon Heacock. You can go back and watch all of these on YouTube, which is really cool. I'm totally cool if you guys want to listen to these in the car, doing what you're doing. Maybe you're out mowing. You want to listen. That's fine. We're going to produce them for that too. But, we hired Aiden to come on. We're doing a lot more video. Our video is much higher quality than it used to be. Subscribe to that Cyclone Fanatic YouTube page. Is that, when fall camp gets here, that's where things are really going to be heating up. That Cyclone Fanatic YouTube page. Go and check that out today. All right, here we go. Jon Heacock. Let's hear what the professor has to say. All right, everybody, we're continuing on our conversation with some of the coaches up here at Iowa State and the summer series. Looking forward to this one. I always love catching up with my buddy Jon Heacock, the defensive coordinator for the Cyclones. You're still here, Coach. I'm so glad. I thought maybe you would have retired by now. Congratulations on another season.
It's crazy. I was just telling a guy in church yesterday, introduce himself, and he asked how long we've been here. I said, 9 years, going on a whole bunch.
Wild?
Yeah, it's pretty much about the longest my family's been any place in this coaching business. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been very rewarding, and it's hard to imagine, to be honest.
Yeah, Matt was telling me he was reminiscing on his first Big 12 meeting, with all the coaches that he went to.
Right.
And he mentions Bob Stoops and Art Briles for two guys. It's just like, God, that to me put into perspective how long you guys have been here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's funny. When he asked me yesterday, I had to stop and think to myself, wow, yeah, it's been a long time.
Do you what's really fast? I like to talk to a guy like Randy Peterson. I'll reminisce on what the media world used to be like, and you've been around football long enough to know really what it was like before TV contracts and all that crap got thrown at us. How do you? What always impresses me about you is that you've been able to evolve, and you've stayed with the wave, and you're still successful, and you still seem to enjoy what you do. What's been the key to that?
I think where you put your focus. I think it's probably like all of us, Chris. I think where you put your focus. My focus way back, early on, I was a teacher and a coach, and so your focus was always on the students and always on the players. And the guys that I worked for early on in this profession, that's what they were all about. You weren't focused on anything else. shoot, you never made enough money back then. You were just, paycheck to paycheck and paying bills. And, so you never ever worried about that. And you were never ever worried about the next job. You were just hoping to keep the one you got. So I think the people that I worked for, and I think, getting into the educational world where your focus was, you never worried about the contract, anything else. You were just, your job was to teach and to coach. And I think I've been able to do that all along. I think that's really been the priority everywhere I've been, and still to this day. I think it's the best part of the job is the people and the players that you get to work with. So I think that's been the easy thing. There's been a lot of changes. You could start from A to Z. Been a lot of changes in 40-some years. And, some of it's obviously been really good. Some of it I don't know. And I think the reality of it, though, is life does change. I think everybody's jobs have changed in 40 years. And so you just roll with it. But I think simple answer to your question, keep your focus on the players and the students, and do the best you can with them.
What about the Big 12 in 9 years from a offensive standpoint, what you're going up against? Because it feels like that side of the league has changed a lot as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, though. I feel like it's going back a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, I would agree.
I feel like when we first got in this, it was, and really why we ended up in some of the defense that we did, the game was going so fast. Unlike anything that we had been through in the Mid-American Conference and really anywhere else that I had been, the tempo of the game. And, I remember playing games out here trying to sub on third down and, you never had time to get a sub on the game and into the game. And so that part of it was early on when we first got here, those first few years. I mean, every team you played was going warp speed. Then I feel like in the last handful of years, it may have settled down just a little bit. And now I feel like, again, with several of the teams now, you're getting back into going fast, and the tempo is picking back up again.
The West Coast influence, how does that change the league? And I'm also interested, just because works both ways, but you haven't seen a lot of these programs from a scouting standpoint. How does that change your preparation?
Well, it does. It's and I think it's even unique. We were talking as a defensive staff, it's even unique early in the season, just the number of changes in offenses and offensive coordinators and, position coaches and those kind of things. So it's different this summer for us. We've always been I've always been dating way back when, detailed in the summers of summer game plans. And, you almost had a game plan ready before you ever got to the team that you played. And then you kind of just verified it by film. And I think we're going to have to do a great job of studying a whole bunch of different, teams and where guys came from and all the different backgrounds. So that part of it is a little bit different as well. Then you add in the new teams in the conference, and then some of those even have new coordinators and new coaches. So it's a lot of unknowns, and some of those will play later on down the road, so that's helpful. Some we play early, so we'll have to kind of sort it out as we go.
One of the things that's fascinating to me, and I vote in a lot of these polls and stuff, and I have no idea anymore. Like a team, they're not on Iowa State's schedule this year, but like a team like Arizona, right? Like that is great year last year. Coach leaves. Ton of scholarship guys are gone.
Right.
There's still some expectations. I have no idea what that team's going to be because I don't know
for sure
any of these players.
For sure.
Right? It has to make that rather difficult.
Well, it is, and you're constantly, you're evaluating rosters. Who came in, who left, who's gone, who played, where they play, what did they play, all the things that you're talking about. You really have to stay. We really have one guy on our staff on our side of the ball that's responsible really for that throughout the spring. Obviously after the season, then into spring and then post spring, right? And then you're constantly trying to just to keep up to date as to where they're going. So all of a sudden you don't get to week 3 and it's like, well, man, where's so-and-so? Well, shoot, he left or he was injured or those kind of things. So, it's a whole process for sure.
Yeah, it's nearly impossible to be honest. So let's talk about your team and your defense going into this year. One of the things I loved about last year, and it was kind of maddening for a while, I would think, but you kept having these injuries in the secondary. But I almost feel, Coach, that might pay off this year. A guy like Jontez Williams I'm a huge fan of.
Right.
He got beat up some, but he got reps.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't take a dummy to look at him and know he's a really good football player.
Yeah, really talented guy.
Is that an encouraging thing?
Yeah, I think so. As long as everybody gets better, as long as we're, as Coach says, growing forward. I think it's, at the time and even going into last season, I mean, man, the numbers of changes and people we were moving around and getting things going and depth charts and all those kind of things. And then as the season went, obviously, as you stated, we lost some guys in the back end. And, by the end of the season, we were moving guys, just trying to figure out where guys could play and hopefully, get us through that game. And I give a lot of credit to those kids that they never backed up a step, and I thought, Coach Broom and Hank and those guys did a great job of just being able to, and as we talk about coaching concepts, just trying to keep them alive to be able to play. Hey, some guys were repping at corner and safety during weeks of games and being able to understand the concepts of what we were doing. And I think big picture wise, it certainly helps us as long as we've grown forward from those mistakes and those experiences and those reps. I think if we've done that, we'll be happy with what happened a year ago with the way that all turned out.
Malik Verdon and Jeremiah Cooper are two of my favorite players to watch. It's like
you picked two. That's good choice by you there.
Yeah. But it's also like, hey guys, calm down. I don't want you to get hurt all the time because they're so physical.
They are. They play. But that's who they are. And
how do you measure that?
You're not going to calm them down. And that's probably why they play defense. So you're not probably going to calm them down. I think we've got to find a better way. And again, when you talk about what happened a year ago, I think the benefit of all of that is now, man, you don't have to play those guys every single snap, every single play, every single game. There's you're going in with another player that can play just as well and do the things and got the reps. And, man, you're not worried about, man, he hasn't played a lot. Well, sure they have. They've all played a lot now. So I think we'll do a better job of that and have the ability to do that. And I think that will also help those guys along and to be playing at top speed, when it matters most in November, December, and January.
Tell me a little bit about Cooper Ebel. He was kind of a big name this spring and I just asked people and everybody seems to be really excited about him. What about this young man has stood out at linebacker?
He's a guy that we recruited from here in the state of Iowa. Very typical of a lot of the players that we have from the state. Their coaches, they play numerous positions in a game. I mean, I remember watching Coop play. Went to a live playoff game and Shooty was the quarterback. At times he played the true running back. He was the high safety. He was the defensive end rushing off the edge. They just play so many positions. And I think sometimes, and I think maybe even early on, guilty as charged of the fact that, man, you would look at those guys, you don't know what position they are, and maybe you don't feel as good about them. And I think now we've kind of sorted in like, man, that's a plus and that's a benefit, and we'll get him in here, and we think he's a linebacker, and we'll put him in that spot. And, Shooty's grown, I think, off the top of my head, 35 pounds since he got here. Looks like a completely different human being. Got some reps last year that probably, shouldn't have had to have happen, but he did and handled it really well and had a great, spring. Winter conditioning for him was really big, the weight room. 8 weeks with the weight staff and eating and nutrition and all those kind of things. And really got a bright future.
That's the part of college football that I love. And your guys' program seems to be a little old school in the way that we still get to see guys for 4 years where they, generally will start at Iowa State.
For sure.
And then you watch them turn into a man.
Yeah, it's the old before and after pictures.
That
we used to do all the time. You'd hang them in the locker room when they came in, and now that's not always thing, but we've been blessed here at Iowa State. We were able to do those things.
Yeah, because we don't get that in the sport of basketball.
Right.
It's because they can go pro, or it's just so much more heavy with the
part of the game. Yep.
AAU.
Yep.
All that stuff. I love that aspect about this program still, that you guys have been able to keep all that together. I hope we can, in the future.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea, and I think that's the way, Coach Campbell's recruited. I think that's the way we've all kind of built it, and, I think it's just been a good thing the way our guys have approached it all. They build a bond, and I think they've also seen guys go through that process and come out the other side and playing on Sundays in big games. And so why would I need to go do something else somewhere else? And I think that's the blessing that they feel like they can be developed here and go play at the next level and be ready to play.
All right, that's Jon Heacock. We'll get right back to that conversation in a couple of minutes, but I want to thank my friends at Robinson Implement, a full-line AGCO, Kubota, and versatile dealership for all of your farm equipment needs. Go check them out. Again, that's Robinson Implement, a family business. It spans 4 generations. They put their customers first. They have locations in Corning, which is my favorite because I love the Adams County Speedway. Y'all know that. Pocahontas and Irwin, the Central and Southwest Iowa folks. If you're farmers out there, remember my friends at Robinson Implement powering the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Summer Series. Also, shout out to my new friends Clay and Chase Natuzal. They are Raymond James Financial Advisors, diehard Cyclones, and we thank them for sponsoring the Summer Series here on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. Really appreciate it. Clay grew up at Ames. Chase has been a lifelong Cyclone. He raised him the right way, right? I mean, he raised him a clone. Clay's father was an Iowa State professor for 30 years. Mom worked at Iowa State. These people are nuts about Iowa State. And if you're in that market and you're starting to think about your future and you need a financial advisor, remember Clay and Chase Natuzal. Raymond James Financial Advisors. They've got over 3 decades of experience between the two of them, and they can really help you out. Clay and Chase Natuzal from Raymond James Financial. Also, certainly last but not least, remember my friends over at Fairway Meat and Grocery when you start to plan your tailgate season. You people are nuts. You're listening to Cyclone Fanatic, for crying out loud. You're not going to get a normal fan. You're probably already planning your tailgate menus. Remember my friends at the Fairway Meat Market for that. All right, here we go. Second half of my interview with Iowa State defensive coordinator Jon Heacock. All right, so developing here, one of the great stories in the Campbell era was Will McDonald. One of my favorite things is when he got drafted,
Right.
the video of all you guys. I believe that there are some really elite defensive linemen in this program right now. I think Onyedem, Orange, all those guys can be really, really good. And weren't they just scratching the surface last year? Because you have to keep in mind they hadn't played a lot going into last year.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they're still relatively young going into this year, and I think those guys, it just is, there's a whole group of them. Like you said, it's a little bit different of saying, hey, we have a guy. I just feel like this group is by group or so-called committee, but I just think there's so many of them that really have some high-level ceilings, and I think they're just, again, approaching what they can become and learning the game and learning D-line and understanding all the pass rush concepts and all the things that we do physically in the run game on defense. But there's just, as you said, probably more numbers here as we approach the season than probably have had in the past.
Who do you think maybe could be that next elite pass rusher at Iowa State?
Again, it's a hard thing to say who is that guy today. I would guess after the end of fall practice, I would have probably a couple good names for you. But, I think, T.O. does a great job. He's been able to do that from the edge. Joey Peterson's has really improved since the spring. I think Ike has done a great job. We added a guy, Kennard Snyder's really.
He's one I was going to ask you about.
He's really a talented guy, gifted, learning our defense, learning terminology, but really has great twitch, would be similar in that twitch mode to Will. So I think there's a group of guys, Samuel Same, young, thin, just got better and better and better. Again, great twitch habits like Will. So we'll have a little better handle here through the summer and through spring ball or through fall ball, and but I think there'll be some guys that people will be that's really pretty impressive of what they see.
The move in the offseason to promote Taylor to offensive coordinator for Matt. You're a veteran coach. He's 33. What do you think of Taylor? Why do you think Matt made that move?
Well, I'm always, and I think it's anywhere in my building. People have asked me that question. I'm not in that room. X's and O's, and that's a Coach Campbell thing. But here's what I always judge everything on, and I don't care who it is in our building, is who's willing to work hard when there's things that need to be done. Mouse has always been that guy. When we were at Toledo, when things needed to get done, and maybe not everybody wanted to do them, he did them. And I think it's a great testament to people in our office, and even in offices, people listening. Not everybody wants to do everything,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes being willing to do everything will help you learn everything. And when you learn everything, then you become more valuable in
Absolutely.
what you do. And I think he's a guy that just kept learning and learning and learning. Hey, go do this. Yep. Learn how to do that. Yep. Learn how to do that. And now all of a sudden he's learned how to do a whole lot of everything. Worked with quarterbacks, worked with running backs, worked with the wideouts, been the tight ends guy, knows the offensive line. And now all of a sudden, hey, there's an opportunity. And well, who else are you going to go to? Well, the guy that knows really has learned everything here. So I think it's a great situation. I think it's a great tribute to what he has done into this process. Easily, many times along the way, and I think young people especially, man, it's the fast food era, right? We drive up, we want a number one, and we want it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a guy that has hung in there and worked really hard at it. And sure, there'll be some growing pains, I'm sure. When I think back, I can't even imagine, but there'll be some learning curve, but he's got great help along the way. He's coach has surrounded him with a great room, and I think Coach Campbell's the best guy he's got to bounce everything off of. So there's great wisdom there. I just think he's earned the right to do it, and it was fun to kind of watch. I've been with him. He and I showed up at Toledo at the same time, and I've been able to watch him go from paid zero to now all of a sudden have an opportunity to be the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and the one thing I've seen in this industry, a few examples I can think of is where you're loaded, right? And one coach moves on. It doesn't matter the sport. I have a couple things in mind. And when you bring in a completely different voice, it's almost, in these examples, stunted the players think too much.
For sure.
That's what I liked about it with all the guys coming back on offense.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like if you left, I think it would make a lot of sense to have
for sure
one of the guys in the staff because the language doesn't change, the system doesn't change, right? How much value is in that?
I think it's huge. I think it's a huge value. I think it's underrated at times. I think at times people were trying to find again, I've watched it for 40 years, so I can make some statements. I think guys try to hire the guru guy or the X and O guy or the scheme guy, and it's not what the team needs, and I think it goes back to the real big concept. What are we all here for? We're here for the players. Like, that's what we're all here really for. How do we give them the best chance to succeed? This scenario, and not all scenarios are the same, this scenario would say just what you're saying. Man, the best thing to do is to try to find somebody within to keep it all the same, because that's what's best for the players. Man, it may not be sometimes even, I'm sure Mouse at night's like driving home like, oh boy, but it is still the best thing for the whole team, and he'll get through it and he'll work through it, and he's got great people around him and he's got great players around him, and they'll all figure it out because the decision that coach made was what was best for the team. And whenever you make those decisions and you don't make them on X's and O's, I think they're great decisions.
Speaking of the just personnel, guy I really liked over the years was Tyson Viedt.
Mm-hmm.
Got an opportunity at Cincinnati to go and coordinate a defense.
Right.
That's pretty cool. Like, I hated to see him leave, but I was really, really happy for him.
It's really cool. And it's like, the other guys that have gone on, and I think it's the best. He got a chance to be able to get back home close to his family and his wife's family. I think first and foremost, that is a huge deal for them. And I think then having the opportunity to be the boss, be the coordinator, I think it's a great opportunity for him. I'm always excited when those guys, it was no different like when DK got a chance. When those guys get a chance to go improve themselves and make it better for their families, man, I'm all in favor of it. And that guy did a great job for us here. He came in here when we all started, and helped us change this whole defensive thing around and help us get a name on this defense. And very respectful of the amount of work. Again, a real work hard guy. spent a lot of hours in this building trying to give our players the best chance to have success.
Okay, so how does it work then where this is your guy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And now he's going over to a conference rival. He's got all your secrets.
He does.
Do we got to throw in wrinkles when we play Cincinnati?
We have all his too.
This is true.
Right?
You know what he's going to do.
Yeah,
There
we
you
have
go.
all his secrets too. So
There you go.
It all works
Great
the same.
point.
Right. And the biggest thing is that he and I are able to share secrets. So no, I think like I said, I think it's a great deal. And I'll be rooting for him like crazy for every game except one. So
Yeah.
and he'll be doing the same here for us.
But how much pride do you take when guys who have been underneath you? You have your own little coaching tree, right? Like Mauser and I were going through guys who have been through here earlier,
Right.
and it's you've been here almost a decade. Like there's a lot of success stories.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and everybody builds their own way. You know, they've all been part of this, but they've also made a name for themselves to go get those opportunities. You know, they're not just getting them because, they coached here or coached with me. I think all of those things, because we've had success here and we have done a good job as a collective group, I think it's allowed all of us individually to get opportunities. And I think, again, it still goes back to the team, man. The more success everybody has, as a group, the more individual success you're allowed to have. And I think that's a great way that we build it around here and look at it.
I feel like last thing for you, going into last year was odd. You guys kind of are down 2022, win-loss at least.
Yeah.
The whole gambling thing just really clouded the offseason. It was one of the most miserable off seasons of my career.
Right.
But you guys were all very confident going into the season, I remember, and you backed it up.
Yeah.
What does it feel like going into this year?
Well, on that, I think it's all backed up by who you have in the building. Chris, I still think it's still all about the people. We had really good people in this building. Yes, we lost some really good people, but we still had really good people in this building.
Yeah.
And when you have really good people around you, they may not be as old or they may not have played as many reps, but they're still really good people. They're everything that the team is about, they're about. And so that gives you the confidence as a coach. And and I even had said to Coach at one point in time, I just said, we're going to have to hang in here with these young guys. We're going to be okay. And it started out rocky. And, I'm not, I made that statement and I was like, and at the same point in time, I just kept feeling like there was going to be something really good happen. I believed in them for just no other word. And I told Coach, we're going to it's going to not be great early on. But if we'll just hang in and keep repetition and keep doing the same things, we'll have a shot down the stretch. And, I'm glad we did. And I think our kids and I think our coaches hung in with our players. I think there was when things went sideways, this building never got sideways. It did outside.
Yeah.
But this building never got sideways. There was never fingers pointing. There was never, we can't. It was always just, man, we got to keep moving this thing forward. And if we will, we'll be okay. And, I give our players a lot of credit, and I give Coach Campbell and our staff downstairs. Like I said, it could have gone sideways a couple of different times, and I've been doing this long enough that again I sense those things, and we did not. This whole building inside these walls just kind of kept moving itself forward, and there were some things that still weren't great. We still have a lot of work to do and a lot of growth to make. But if we'll continue to work at it, we have good people in this building still today. And, now they're a little bit older and now they're a little bit bigger and a little bit faster and stronger. And you hope that benefits you, but so does everybody else. And that's the battle that you have, as the fall comes.
I thought it was one of the most enjoyable seasons I've ever covered in my whole career, any sport. What I know a lot of people here went through in the off season, right or wrong, and that's still being picked apart by a lot of people, but just to watch you guys be able to come out on the other side like that when people were questioning your culture and stuff, and that's what you guys take so seriously.
And I think that's what I felt the best about.
Yeah,
like that's what I knew was stable. Like and that's why as I sensed it, and I think the people in this building, the players themselves knew what we were made of, and I think. You heard some of that noise, but again, you never allowed it. I think also you become so focused then because of some of that, you become so focused on your facility and your building and your players and your staff and what are you doing and how can you help them have success, that you don't get caught up in some of that. And I think when that happens, it allows you to move yourself forward. And I think we were able to do that. But it's the one thing that gave me the most confidence when, and it was gut-wrenching. But I also, like I said, I just felt like we had good people here. And I think I've been doing this long enough. When you got good people, you got a chance. And I don't care what business you're in.
No doubt.
You got good people working in your walls that care about everybody else and not so much about themselves, you'll have a chance. And I think that's what last year verified to me and proved, I think, to our players, that if you just care enough about each other and don't worry about everything else, it'll figure itself out.
All right, well, let's keep those Bash brothers healthy.
That's amen to that, right?
Keep those guys healthy.
Yeah, true that.
And I can't wait for – I know we got a few months, but I can't wait for September.
No, it's exciting, and I appreciate you and everything you guys do, and we're excited. Our players are working extremely hard. I mean, everybody out there should feel good about that. That doesn't guarantee you anything in this business, but it does guarantee you a chance, and we'll have a chance.
The Professor, thanks, Coach. Always appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.